to review that.
Good morning. This is opening of the work session dated this Monday, January 22nd, 2024. We're going to actually strike the first item. Well, first off is the approval of the minutes held on January 8th, 2024 and January 17th, 2024. I'm looking for a motion for approval.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Bolos? I'll second those motions. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. We're actually going to strike what's listed on the agenda as item number 2, and we'll be back at 12:30. Thank you. We're gonna strike what's on number 2, and we'll be back at 12:30. Hi, welcome. Thank you. Welcome back to our work session on this Monday, the 22nd of January. We have a full board of commissioners with Commissioner Bolos joining us online, Commissioner Farrar being here in the room. We're going to move to our discussion regarding the intersection design layout. Gary Myers, Sean Wilkinson, Rick Grover, Charlie Ewert, Ashley Tolman. And I think that about Jessica's in the room with us. Gentlemen, welcome. We're glad you're here. We also welcome those of you who have chosen to care enough to be online. Thank you for joining us. Go ahead. I'm going to leave that to Mr. Myers. If you wouldn't mind starting us off there, and
Sure.
that'd be great.
Well, I'm assuming, to be honest with you, the following meeting at 1 o'clock is the one that I scheduled.
Oh,
And so I'm assuming that this one is probably kind of a precursor to that meeting. Is that
I
everyone else's recollection?
I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, however you guys decided to calendar it and put it on the agenda.
Okay. Because the one I scheduled was for 1 o'clock, and that one,
We're anxious to learn.
and I can kind of, does anybody else have anything else they wanted to discuss prior to that?
No, and I think if I remember right, this was us having a conversation with the commissioners about maybe the possibility of hiring a consultant to do a study on that intersection. And I think the next meeting was a discussion with UDOT about the same thing and about what their expectations are gonna be.
Okay. So commissioners, the intersection we're referring to is the one at the four-way stop up there in Eden, right in front of Maverick and the grocery store. It has warranted for some improvements to be done. Initially, I think the initial glance, cursory look at it was to put a signal in there. Well, for a lot of reasons, signals have their own challenges. They have some benefits. Originally, a roundabout was discussed. And then now I think we've kind of come full circle back to the signal with the idea of trying to address the lighting and the light pollution with, what do you call those, Charlie shrouds or shields, essentially to deflect that light so that it doesn't have the pollution to the side horizontally. The reason being, roundabouts are great. However, they're hogs when it comes to right of way. They take up a lot of space and a lot of footprint. And as such, you have a lot of unintended impacts to not only property owners adjacent to the intersection, but also utilities. It can create some complications and challenges there. And then you add into it the unfamiliarity with the intersection. If motorists to the area are not familiar with it, sometimes they panic a little bit with roundabouts and do what they're gonna do. But anyway, to Charlie's point, does anybody feel strongly in regards to this particular intersection, signalized versus roundabout?
Can I speak?
Please.
In the last conversation we had about this, I mentioned this, so I just want to reiterate. I know that the roundabout is a lot more pleasing visually and it does slow traffic. But in the concerns I've heard from residents who have contacted me and the conversations we had a couple of months ago, I just want to make sure that we do the safest thing. I would rather have a safer intersection than an eye-pleasing intersection. And if
And-
that's a traffic light, then so be it. And I know there are arguments for safety for both options, but I'm just really interested in the planning department's studies that you've read and research you've done on traffic lights versus roundabouts for safety purposes. Safety is my number one concern with the school being on the other side of that intersection from a lot of the homes.
School being on both sides of that intersection, actually.
Absolutely right.
So there's a couple things to think about when it comes to a roundabout. Obviously, you got a more free flow of traffic that goes through a roundabout. What I understand, and as engineers, you guys let me know if you know differently. Roundabouts can be fairly safe for pedestrians, but they are never pedestrian oriented. They're always vehicle oriented. And the way that you make them safe for pedestrian is you make this pedestrian walk farther. As the car goes through the roundabout, let's say making a right-hand turn, they go through the roundabout, the driver's looking left as they yield. Once they're squarely in the roundabout, they're looking where their right-hand turn is gonna be out of the roundabout, whether it's the immediate right or the next right or the next right. Once they start looking to the right and start looking where they're gonna go, then they're paying attention to where there might be a pedestrian. And so when you look at a roundabout as a four-way intersection, if someone's gonna cross this leg, going into that roundabout, they need to cross far enough outside of the roundabout for that driver to have looked left, merged into the roundabout, and then looked right to see where that pedestrian is. In other words, let's say you're trying to cross this east-west road, north-south, you're coming up along the road, you gotta go around that roundabout, or on the outside of the roundabout to that east-west road, walk down a couple hundred feet, 100 to 200 feet beyond the roundabout, and then come to a crossing and cross. That gives enough space for the driver who's in the roundabout to have their focus set to the right where the pedestrian is, and enough space for them to stop for that pedestrian without putting huge backups into the roundabout. That's how you make a roundabout safe for pedestrians. It's not pedestrian oriented. It's still very much vehicle oriented.
Well, don't you also raise, I think, the other thing is that in some of the studies that I've been looking at is they raise the crosswalk to the pedestrian level and not the street level.
That's right. And
Everybody's nodding their head, yeah.
You can do that, and I agree with you. The challenge you run into there, Commissioner, it does call attention to the motorists of the pedestrian movement. However, it can add some complications in the drainage and the snow removal. We traditionally, and when I say we, I'm referring to myself and to our roads department. Traditionally, we don't love that kind of thing. And the reason is anywhere where you have that raised elevation of the travel surface there, like a speed bump or a crosswalk or a speed hump or whatever you call it there, it collects water. There's always a portion of it that never drains. And the reason we don't love that is over time, that just tears our pavement up through the freeze thaw action.
Tell me how they do it then in back of in Riverdale. There's 2 or 3 back there. They all have raised sidewalks back there. There's never water. I use those things frequently.
You have to have more inlet boxes.
Yeah,
Oh,
you
so
had more drainage.
I'm hearing a never or always, but there's a way to get that to work.
And sorry if I phrased that wrongly, we tend to shy away from that is probably the correct phrase I should have used. Drainage is a big deal, right? If you don't handle that water, not only is it create ice spots for vehicles, for pedestrians, for whoever encounters it, but it also is really hard on the roads, and it really shortens the lifespan of whatever it is that whether it's concrete or asphalt right there.
It just increases the cost of the infrastructure because you
That's
gotta
right.
put more boxes in, more inlets, more drainage facilities.
So to try and illustrate, I think what Charlie, you're saying with having the pedestrians walk further, they're not crossing right up here at the roundabout. You're pushing them further back here.
That's correct.
That's correct.
Where vehicles are focused more on looking in the right spots.
That's correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
So some studies show that roundabouts can be safer
Yeah.
because of this, because you've got people already going slow. And then once their focus is reoriented towards that crosswalk, they can see where that crosswalk.
That's yeah.
But it's certainly not pedestrian friendly. And there are some pedestrians who will try and brave the roundabout and just cross the wrong spot.
Well, so first off, I would say, has the study been done that we need a semaphore in there or not? Is
We
the
have-
traffic to that point? So I just got back from St. George. Since I've been there 30 days ago, they've added 2 more roundabouts. And I've actually had some conversations with, and passed with you, Dot. One of the concerns I have, and if you look back at accident reports on intersections that aren't at full capacity for a semaphore, you actually have more tickets, you have more accidents, because people get tired of waiting in a red light. So that intersection, you can have times when there's 3 or 4 or 5 cars waiting to go through.
Sure.
But 90% of the time, you have 1 car and you go. So, what I'm saying, are we trying to jump ahead of what we really need here? But
It's a great.
I'm not, to me, we came out with the study, well, I guess it was back when they did the general plan of the valley, there was a general consensus, no semaphores, no lights in the valley.
Yeah.
Now they're coming back and saying, okay, but we don't like roundabouts. Well, if you don't like roundabouts, you don't like semaphores, then keep it a 4-way stop. And let it, get to the point where then people will finally say, maybe we need one or the other.
Yeah.
I don't know if we need to make a decision on that right now.
I know that people, I've had some of the people that have talked to me, they're waiting, sometimes minutes. I heard somebody say I waited 14 minutes to make a left-hand turn the other day when they were coming from one way to trying to go to another way, trying to get home.
Was that on 100 South?
That was on the 4-way stop. They were coming from the area over by the Snowcrest Junior High and turning left to go up to the,
Toward Wolf Creek,
towards Wolf Creek.
Hmm.
And
14 minutes.
14 minutes.
Holy cow.
They forget how to use a 4-way stop sign.
Well, it wasn't them. It wasn't them that forgot how to use a 4-way stop sign.
Everybody in front of
But
them.
there was a number of cars in front of them that might have, and with the number of guests we have up there, whatever the solution is, I'm okay with figuring out a good and safe way to do it. I like what Commissioner Bolo said about having it be safe. That's critical.
Yeah.
But I'd like what the residents up there have said, hey, look, we don't want any stoplights up here too. So I think, UDOT came in and said, hey, look, traffic lights, but I don't know that they considered, if roundabouts are more dangerous, they wouldn't keep adding them in some of the off their state roads.
Exactly.
When Brett said that, I didn't get a chance to have a follow-up question with regards to that. And I don't know if he's just talking about area 1 or area 4. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just drove down the new freeway in Davis County, and as you're heading north, right when you get off the freeway, the next left-hand turn is 3000 west through Davis, and every one of those intersections are roundabouts.
Right.
And you've got quite a bit of traffic that runs through those pretty efficiently.
And they've got hundreds of millions of dollars they just spent on studies and everything else in that rural area what was rural out there to do those. And so,
Sure.
Gary, with regards to your drainage and the boxes and the equipment, I like to pay attention to that. People over there in Sweden and Norway and that, where they ride bicycles, the active transportation is 50 million times what it is here. They find a way to get that done. So I'm having a hard time with you. I'm just being open with you. I'm having a hard time when you say, there's a way we can do this smarter, I think, over here. And I think the feeling up there, and one of the nice feelings up there is people like active transportation, but we gotta keep them safe.
Well, and to be honest with you, commissioners, I really don't know that I personally have a preference as to one over the other. Up until recently, I was on board with and had always been along the line that was going to be a roundabout. However, as things started to move down the direction they have with the developments around there, roundabouts, like I said, are a right-of-way hog, so to speak. They require a very large footprint. Just because you're adding in the radius is like sketched up there on the board, it's way less efficient than a 4-way cross.
I'll grant you that. I mean, if you take a look at the roundabouts they've done in St. George, they take a lot of area.
Yeah.
There's no question they take a lot of dirt.
Great to have you
There he
here.
is.
It was just
Hey.
talking.
Welcome. How are you,
Good to
Rob?
have you.
How are you, Gary? Good, good. Come on in, have a seat. Yeah.
So does that kind of handle us on that item for now? Come on over here.
And actually, that is perfect timing, Rob. and
Good
Gary,
timing.
You guys to show
Rob,
up.
if you guys want to grab something over there, you're welcome to also.
Didn't realize there was gonna be lunch here.
We're gonna go. Well, we started at 11 something today, so we just keep working right through lunch.
Sounds good.
So, look, we're gonna move on.
So. Commissioners, when I spoke with Brett regarding this intersection last, the indication he gave to me was they had a certain amount of money available for a signal. To do a roundabout, it's a little bit more expensive,
It's a lot more expensive.
and correct, putting it lightly, yes. It is significantly more expensive, and so what they had originally mentioned to us, and Rob and Carrie, I don't know if this has changed since I last spoke with Brett. It's been some time since Brett and I spoke last, was that UDOT was willing to bring to the table the amount of what a signal improvement would cost at the intersection. But the upgrade from a signal to a roundabout would be on the county.
Let's let it be okay if I pause for just a second.
Absolutely.
We're joined here today, I'm gonna think, it's okay. I think having grape nuts for breakfast is good. It kind of gets you kind of everything going. We're gonna move on to item number 5, which is the discussion regarding the Newtown Eden intersection. All the aforementioned folks are here, but Kerry Jacobson, I don't see Tom Roy Lance here. We did.
Tom and Brett should be here any minute.
Well, then we can, and then, and Brett Slater and Rob White, some of our friends from UDOT are here, and we appreciate you joining us for this. We could just kind of, we've got about 5 minutes. If we want to just kind of take a motion to saunter for 5 minutes, and then we'll wait for those other 2 players from UDOT to come.
All right, motion to sauna. Don't want
Have a
Second.
motion? And a
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, we're gonna saunter for just 5 minutes. We'll be back right around that 1 o'clock hour. Thank you. Hold on, say that again.
I move them, we cease to saunter.
We have a motion to cease to saunter. I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, great. We're on action item, number one, or excuse me, the one at 1 o'clock for discussion regarding Newtown Eden intersection. All the aforementioned folks are here, but we welcome Tom Roylance and Brett Slater into the room. Thank you for being here. Before we went into closed session, we introduced everyone else, so thank you so much for being here. I'd like to turn that time over for you to lead, Mr. Myers, as you did
Fantastic.
before, and then go from there, please.
So Tom and Brett, and Rob and Carrie, thanks for joining us. We've kind of been talking a little bit about the intersection. We refer to it as the four-way, but it's the intersection of SR 162 and 158. Does that sound right up there? I'm not as up to speed on my SR numbers as you guys are, but it's right there in front of the market and the Maverick. Brett, I know you and I have spoke a couple times about this, and historically there was a warrant study done on this intersection. And I don't know who's the most up to speed on said warrant study, but
We've done it, we did it probably 4 years ago,
okay, so it has
or
been.
5 years ago now,
Okay.
because it was, I think it was 2019 that we did it.
Gotcha.
We did do it on a weekend, I think, so there's some recreational traffic
Okay.
that it's busier. I mean, it did need a warrant, but it is not, it does qualify, but it's not overwhelmingly busy, you know.
At least from when you did your study,
Yeah,
correct?
from that time, yeah.
And so you fast forward to today, we kind of had that in the back of our minds, Carrie, and we're aware of that and knowing it wasn't, should I use the word imminent, that a change needed to be made right away, or
Right.
is that fair?
Yeah,
And forgive me if that's not the best word, but feel free to.
no, I
correct
mean,
me, but
it's a need, but it's not the most urgent.
Yeah.
need.
If they
Yeah.
consider a weak warrant,
Yeah,
and so it's on the list, it's something that it would get prioritized. But then there was also the talk of, not putting a signal up in the valley.
right.
And so with it being a weak warrant, and also with the desire that possibly a signal would not be the best application at that location, it absolutely was put more on a back burner from our standpoint.
So you fast forward to today and we're seeing some developments coming, which will add a significant amount of increased traffic, both vehicular as well as pedestrian to this area. And so it's brought it to the fourth thought of our mind again. That being, which do we go with? And the challenge is, as I've explained to commissioners a little bit, there's some obvious differences there between the two, but cost can be a big issue on roundabouts versus signals as well too.
Yeah, we found out, with our roundabout that we were putting at the other intersection, we would have saved several $1 million if we went to a signalized intersection. A lot of people think with a signal that we're really worried about because we're gonna have lights and we're gonna have overhead lights with that, to brighten things up. But when you do a roundabout, we have to just have in our mind, if we put a roundabout here, we're gonna have the same conditions that we're having at the other roundabout, where we're gonna need to put overhead lights leading into the roundabout so folks can navigate and pedestrians can navigate through that roundabout. So when we're talking about dark skies, that's just something to consider. Either alternative is going to need to be lit up. There's some things we can do to help with that, but just have it in your mind. And then roundabouts, they take a little bit larger footprint. And you have to be careful with the roundabout. They can get overwhelmed. And when they fell pretty hard. A signal can support that a little bit better. So that we did a few things at the other roundabout to compensate for that. This one probably doesn't have that same demand or the same driver for the large recreational vehicles. You're not gonna see the snowmobile trailers and the camper trailers coming through 24/7. But, so I think this could be a smaller roundabout, and there's some things we can do in talking to JUB. That's who I reached out to when you guys wanted me to put a really quick estimate together. There's some things we can do with the roundabout, to keep it even smaller, that your trailers can navigate up onto the ramp as they come around, That's something we did not propose at our other one. We made it so that you didn't have to do that, but
Perfect.
there's some things we can do to keep the cost down a little bit.
And that would be essentially, forgive me for interpreting, but essentially shrinking down the footprint, so to speak, of the roundabout.
As
So
much
that-
as we can,
yeah, okay,
We still want to go concrete, right? There's some things
Yeah.
we still want to do just because of the wear and tear in the roundabout stuff. But yeah, there's some things we can do to minimize that.
One of the things that was brought up in our, just here moments ago is we really need to make sure that this is safe. We have a lot of good active transportation up there and this is a community that's minded, they love active transportation. We love supporting that. Weaver County themselves have put a lot of time and energy giving money to the Trails Foundation, Northern Utah, to make sure that trails are all through there. And we see that as something that's gonna continue. So we want to make sure that this is very safe for active transportation use as well. Heard in our earlier meeting, refer to that diagram. Mr. Crockett, would you mind just kind of backing up just a little? But having a cross rock that's a little more removed from the center of the roundabout, but a little further out to make that a little safer. We talked about that, or the possibility of raised sidewalks to make that active transportation a priority rather than motorized transportation priority, some other things like that. So would you mind just commenting on that? I think you made a statement that may or may not have been misunderstood in the last meeting having to do with safety or things like that. Isn't there a way to make one was more safe than the other?
So historically, roundabouts have not been the most pedestrian friendly intersections. Carrie could talk to you about studies that we have seen. There's things we can do. On lower speeds, especially with the bikes, it's difficult. So that's one thing you can do for pedestrians. When you talk about a raised sidewalk, and we keep our bikes and our pets separate. So unless we went to a raised or a separated trail, then you could actually have your bikes on a completely separate facility. But as you're walking into this intersection, if we're really talking about heads, we can do with something. You can bring them out and light it up and have them cross outside of it. But you are crossing all these different lakes, and it's a little bit more cumbersome for a pedestrian. With the bikes, there's some different things that we could do to help. So a lot of times, you end up treating them more like a car and you have them bring in. There's some things that we did to make it a little bit wider to try to separate them a little bit, but Carrie could talk a little bit about some of the issues we have with active transportation with roundabouts. But there's something that cities are dealing with all over the place.
I mean,
Jared,
there's
please go ahead.
there's rapid flashing beacons, or depending on the number of lanes, I don't know that this would be big enough, but the hybrid beacons, that if you go through Ogden, you'll see them on wall or whatever. So depending on the number of lanes, you may have some rapid flashing beacons or the hybrid beacons that pedestrians would push if they cross there. I mean, you can get bikes through there, but roundabouts are designed for vehicles not to really stop, and so it is a little more challenging for cyclists to, they have to find gaps, and at the same time vehicles do, and so I don't remember from when we did the counts before, because traffic has changed and conditions have changed so much with the pandemic and then afterwards. And I mean, volumes are back or exceeding what pre-pandemic levels are now in some locations. And so probably an updated study to find out what the right configuration would be. And someone to take a look at that. Roundabouts are not an easy thing to model. The software that you use to model them so that you kind of get a more accurate picture, is a little more intensive to use. And so you can't just pop it in an easy piece of software. So probably want to do that, and have some modeling done for updated traffic counts and a model done to see what the lane configuration really needs to be. So you can know really how big the roundabout is. I mean, we did kind of preliminary things in comparing those alternatives, but that was you know, obviously a number of years ago now, and so that really probably should be updated to more accurately reflect, but it is a lot more expensive on the front end than doing the traffic signal, so.
But the benefits of roundabouts are also, you may have, you're reducing the risk of serious crashes with a roundabout, because with a roundabout, you're gonna have kind of sideswipe type crashes versus a signal. You're going to have, vertical or perpendicular crashes, which are typically a lot more serious. So, that part of the safety, it makes it safer that way.
Yeah.
And they perform typically much better than a four-way stop, which is what we have here now.
Perfect. Your comment kind of really resonated with me for a second, Carrie, and the fact that now that we have probably a little bit better idea of what our newly generated numbers are going to be, both for vehicular traffic, but we probably have a lot better idea of roughly what it's going to be for pedestrian traffic now too. It would be probably really good to run maybe a model on this and see what would happen, what could happen, right?
Well, I mean, whatever, cause you're gonna look at growth factors for the
Yeah.
future, but, developments that you know that are more immediate.
Yeah.
That you put those numbers in addition to what, to the traffic that we already counted, so that we get a more accurate picture of
Yeah.
what the somewhat near future is.
We're at kind of a crossroads because this area is supposed to be one of the primary village areas of the Ogden Valley, where we're hoping, if we can, to move development rights from the farmland and hillsides and the open areas into a more urbanized center here. At least that's what our general plan says to do. But what level of success are we gonna have in doing that? We still don't know. The jury's still out. We've got a developer who's bringing in a couple hundred units, maybe up to 300 in this area. We know just around the corner, we've got Nordic Valley that has about 500 units that we just entitled over there. And we know at the top of Powder Mountain, we've got a total of around 2,500 units that they got entitlements for over the last year. And so it'd be nice to be able to kind of do a best case, worst case scenario, depending on your perspective. I don't know which one's the worst case or best case, but if we're very successful at moving development rights into this village, you know, maybe we need to run a future growth calculation based off of that. And if we're only marginally successful, maybe we need to run a calculation based off of that. So we know at the very least how much right of way we're gonna need
That's right.
in the future.
Let me pause the conversation in this room to give Commissioner Bolos a chance. She's got her hand raised on the thing to ask her question. Commissioner Bolos, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So this goes back to a couple minutes ago in the conversation. What are the current speed limits on those roads, and would they change with the signalized, and or would they be different with signalized or roundabout at that intersection?
I can help answer that question unless you guys want to.
What's the,
So,
Sorry,
So-
you want me to try again while I'm not choking?
No, I got you, Commissioner. So Commissioner Bolos, I'm gonna back out a little bit on the image. As you're coming up the highway 158, you're at 55 miles an hour until you come to this bend right here. The speed limit drops to about 45 here, and then it stays 45 until you get to the intersection. But it is a stop sign, and the stop sign is it's signed right about here. So people at about this area here know that they need to start slowing down. And so just the fact that you got a stop sign on all four legs slows traffic down quite a bit already getting to that intersection. But on the highway, it's about 45 miles an hour marked until you get to the stop ahead.
So if you put a signal in, we wouldn't lower the speed limit because of a signal coming ahead. It'd do the same thing where you have a stop ahead. And there's some more you can do, but if you put a roundabout in, we do put some signs up and do slow traffic down. When you enter a roundabout, top speed is, we try to design to 25 to 35.
Yeah, so there's usually a series of curves with advisory speeds to slow vehicles down on the approach to the roundabout.
But the speed limit itself would stay the same, other than advisory speed signs on a roundabout.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So we could, coming into that roundabout, could it also be you know, if it's 25, could you sign that down to 20?
Well, I mean, it depends on what the curves are designed for. I mean, but that's the goal, is to get them down to around 25 when we go through the roundabout, so.
I don't know, even, 25 is pretty quick to go through a roundabout.
A lot of times too, your design speed is always higher than your user speed, I guess, is probably the best way of putting it. You do that as kind of a factor of safety, commissioners, so that they can
Yeah.
handle it, knowing that it's not a good idea, but it.
Yeah, I think the design be even fast, but just to slow it down, that's pretty quick. Even the most ones around Riverdale, some of these others that I've been to,
Well, I
That's
think
really
there's a
moving.
little bit of a difference between a roundabout and like a traffic circle.
Sure.
Some of these areas are designed with them to be really small, where the speeds are even lower, and those are more like traffic circles than a roundabout.
I
which is,
see.
more what the state road needs to have for the types of vehicles that still probably use this area, not as much as the one on 39 where you have all the boats and things that are going on 39,
Up
but
there.
probably not as, on a state facility, or usually not small in traffic circle that some of those other places design.
One of the things that we are also focused on from our general plan perspective, as well as from the village perspective here, is both of these highways being kind of the 25th Street style of road. Now, obviously, the UDOT facility we might need to be a little bit different, but the county facility, the east-west facility there, we're looking at on-street parking. We're looking at, bringing speeds down, hopefully in the future to 25 if we can, to help with this village concept. Where we've got buildings facing the streets right up on the right of way. And I'm sure knowing that will change some of maybe the geometry or the configuration of what the future might bring to this area. Having a roundabout with free flow where you've got buildings right up there in the corners may not be the best idea. We may be looking at some setbacks right there in the corner. If you got a street light, it could be like any one of the intersections you see downtown. And so there's different pros and cons to the type of development that's right adjacent to it as well.
Charlie, will you back out just a little bit and go, just so that UDOT's aware on our plan when we go over to Old Town Eden? That on our general plan, we also have a roundabout indicated. You wanna just,
One here,
no, go down to, yeah, right there.
There, yeah.
We have a roundabout indicated in that location as well. What's your thoughts about that?
let me,
And just at face value.
I haven't looked at the traffic numbers. One of the things that's important about roundabouts too is have balance on the legs for the volumes that are entering on the legs, so that there's pretty much even gaps on all the different directions so that it flows well. So not knowing what those numbers are, it's hard to say for sure, because I'm guessing there's a lot more traffic on 158 than there is on 2200 north.
Yeah, sure.
And so if 158 has a lot of traffic, it may not be the best option, but you first really need to look at some traffic counts to say, is this a good place to look
Yeah,
at one?
yeah. And I think for right now, it definitely wouldn't meet any qualification. It's more as development happens in that area,
Yeah.
down the road, it may be.
as soon as sewer gets over this area, I can see it kind of taken off to another kind of urbanized area. So urbanized area here, and then kind of tapering down into a more rural green space band around it, and then another urbanized area, bigger urbanized area here is what the plan is.
Carrie, also, when you talked about the modeling, is that something that we hire a consultant to do, or is that something UDOT does for like the roundabout layout? How does that work?
Typically, the municipality would hire a consultant and then we would review, or the developer, depending on who's, putting a project forward. And then we have folks that would review the model.
Okay.
that contract that you guys saw the language for, that did get approved, the commission did see that. And so we do have a developer who's obligated for up to 2 million at this intersection here. And really the whole conversation, I think today is to try and figure out, is this really where we wanna go? Do we wanna push that developer to build us a roundabout? Do we wanna look at a different intersection type, save him a little bit of money? It just kind of depends on really the way this conversation goes and maybe how some of the science fleshes out.
I think that's, just kind of jumping ahead. Commissioner Ford, do you have any comment on this?
Yeah, I think, from what I hear, I think obviously the study's a little out of date. I'd like to see the study updated to see what we really have there, to see what would warrant, but I have some concerns about the stoplight from a safety issue, as Rob's pointed out, and after listening to Carlos and public safety in front of a committee for about 12 years. One of Carlos's major concern was the accidents that took place at a stoplight because of speed. I never heard once that we had a fatality or a major accident in a roundabout of the 12 years I was there. So we talk about safety. I don't think you can make the comment that by virtue of a stoplight there, it will decrease safety. And I think you have to look at it, probably increase the fatalities or potential, because again, if you look at, and I hear reports all the time about a lot of people go up in the valley and take their race cars up there. And so I just get concerned about some, and again, that's a sheriff's issue, but there's not enough sheriffs to patrol them. So I'd like to see the numbers updated. I'd like to see those numbers then go before the planning commission, have some public input. But I think if you are saying that a roundabout is not as safe as a stoplight, I think you better look at the stats. And I think if you check with Highway Patrol with Public Safety across the state, they probably confirm that. So, but again, I agree that the footprint of particularly this roundabout is gonna be substantially larger now. Right now, I don't see that there's gonna be a lot of pedestrian traffic that's gonna be crossing between the Maverick and those others. Now, in the future, that's why I think we have to take a look at what the future is. What's the future foot traffic look like? I think the bike traffic, which is fairly substantial right now, can be handled by what's pointed out here, or what they, take a trip down to Washington County, look at what they've done.
Well,
A lot of bike traffic in Washington County. So don't tell me that you can't have bikes in a roundabout, because they've got over 30 or 40 down there that I was, seeing over the last couple of months. So I would say before you start making judgments, Gary, you should go down there and take a look and then investigate what they've done.
Oh, no, you can accommodate them.
Yeah.
It just extends your footprint
Yeah,
of
no,
what you're doing.
there's no question it extends the footprint.
So,
But again, I think if you're looking at safety and really then what the community wants to see, which again, I think we have to base that on future numbers, not what numbers we see right now. What's the ultimate plan for that intersection? What type of businesses, what are we gonna see there?
I think it's safe to say, especially with our partners here from UDOT, that there's been quite a bit of growth in the last 5 years since you've done your study. Growth will continue to happen to a certain extent. And the 4-way stop sign is becoming, I had one guy call me, he said, I looked at my watch and I was 14 minutes waiting to make a left-hand turn coming off of the one coming from Snowcrest, then going up to Powder Mountain Way that way, 14 minutes waiting there. And that might have been a unique Saturday or a situation, but an improvement to a 4-way stop sign, whatever's decided, is, I think we're in the process now of really looking at that more in depth. And so if Gary and you folks, along with UDOT, Rick, if we're gonna do this study, or however we get that done, or in conjunction with making sure that the developers involved in the cost thereof, and we put all this together and we carry with you, I don't mean to, I'm gonna better just safely direct to you then, Rob, if that's okay.
Sounds great.
But you and your team, if you could help assist us with that, that'd be, I think, the path forward,
Yeah.
because it's coming at us rather quickly, faster than any of us anticipated, and so I'd really appreciate some collaboration on that.
What's your time frame, I guess, for starting the work out there?
We're just trying to be preemptive about what direction we go first at this point. I know the developer, Charlie, how far away is Eden Crossing at this point?
He's got the rights to start when he wants to. He's got to file a subdivision plat. He can't turn dirt over there without first starting to turn dirt here, if that's what our direction is. And so his agreement with us is, no movement on his side until we know what's gonna happen with this intersection.
It might be today at 4 o'clock, more likely after 8 o'clock, after 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. So it's good. So I think that's the good reason for having y'all in the room and moving this way.
Yeah, and we'll work as partners on this item. I know, we wanna leave this better than we found it, and, also plan for what's coming at it. Because it's not a sleepy little town up there anymore. It's starting to see a lot of development, and now is the time to start looking at some of these improvements to transportation.
Yeah, and I want to just put an emphasis to everyone in this room, safety, whatever that solution ends up being, safety is a really big thing. Not just though for automobiles, which it will be for automobiles, but also for active transportation. I can't tell you how many times my kids show me pictures of how many guys are on bicycles in the middle of the frozen, tundra up in the Norwegian countries and stuff like that, how many miles they continue to ride. We have a very progressive group up there that I think enjoy that kind of thing, and I just want to pay attention to their needs. So if we could just watch out for that as well, that'd be great.
Commissioners, can I ask you, as far as priority goes, we've got vehicular safety, we've got pedestrian safety, we've got vehicular efficiency and convenience, and we have pedestrian efficiency and convenience. How would you rank those 4 items?
I think that as you do your studies and you look at, you've already mentioned that, Charlie, you looked at best and maybe moderate case scenarios, not worse, but because worse would be today. But moderate and best to come up with those solutions and make those recommendations. We've put a lot of money to those. We have separated bike trails there now on some of those, and so how that would all flow together, and just watch out, if we were making a decision 10 and 20 and 50 years from now, what you see or how that would work.
The reason I asked the question is,
Oh, yeah.
just a question
But
about
let's,
levels of efficiency for pedestrians versus vehicles. Sometimes if we're looking at a high priority vehicle corridor, maybe we're minimizing the pedestrian priority. If we're looking at a priority pedestrian corridor, maybe we're minimizing the vehicle priority, or there's a balance.
right now, only 2 of those corners, today, there's only 2 of those corners really developed.
Right.
And so let's just, I appreciate you bringing that up, but again, we look to you guys who are professionals to make recommendations. Thank you.
And Charlie, I think you have to look at then, what's gonna be on those corners in the future to determine, okay, will the heavy impact be pedestrian? If not, then it's probably gonna be vehicle.
Yeah.
So I think, whatever use would tend to indicates that it'd be the heavier user is where we should concentrate.
I think since you have,
So,
I'm just talking out loud, but since you have 3 major ski resorts in one valley, that's pretty heavy. And 2 of them will pass by that intersection right there. And unfortunately, that likely necessitates more of a traffic heavy type thing, but I don't want to certainly neglect those who might be walking or biking. So, and it's a shame because you're also dealing with 2 different, you're dealing with 4 seasons, but 2 different, you're dealing with the winter. You may not see as much pedestrian or biking in the winter, but you certainly would in the summer. So makes it a good opportunity to grow and learn more, doesn't it, Charlie?
Sure does.
Great.
That's why I brought this up for you.
Thank you.
Do you want us to go ahead and move forward then with the
Please.
study then?
I do. Gage, you
Yeah.
okay with
Yeah, I
that?
do.
Commissioner Bolos, you okay with that?
Yep, that's what I'd like to see. Thank you.
Thank you. There you go. There.
Should I touch base with Scott Park as to where we pay for that?
Please.
Okay.
Let's move forward. Okay, that concludes the discussion on this item. We're about ready to move on. Folks, if we want to make that transition, that'll be great. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
I'm gonna need you, Tom, next time to just settle down. Yeah, good.
Our team is doing great.
I like that. At the very end, say, wait, can I say something? Thanks, commissioners.
Thanks, Zach.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carrie.
All right, we got water we're talking about now.
Taylor West Weaver.
Yeah, and I believe they initiated this meeting, did they not? I think they did.
Yes, they did.
West Weaver or West Warren?
What, I think it's.
Taylor West Weaver. Oh, it's West Warren and West Warren Waters District.
How's it go? Where would you like us?
Davises, come on in, just right around where you can find an open seat, please. Come to the table.
Hey, Tucker, how are you?
I need to sit right next to you.
This chair is taken, and you can come in with some of the others.
Okay.
Let me know if,
Like, I don't need to.
he needs support.
Yeah,
Hey, what's happening, Randy?
How are you?
Hey, Bill. Hey, look at that mic. What's happening?
How are you?
See you, Fred.
William?
I'm good.
Jake?
Nice to see you.
Michael?
Oh, Gates.
Hey, how are you?
Good, how you doing?
Great, we gotta go to the cemetery after. You brought all the troops with you.
They all come with me today.
Wow. We're gonna get ganged up on here, I can tell.
No,
Okay.
There's
Somewhere
no
maybe
gang.
down there.
no ganging.
No ganging?
No ganging.
I've left the bats and horses out there.
Yeah, they're all at home. I guess we can scoot down this way if they need more.
Okay, you're all right. Just
You
stay
sure?
right where you're at.
You're good.
There now.
I like to be
We're
next to
gonna get-
Gary so I can just.
Give him a jab.
I make a good punching bag, don't I?
Great.
Hey, look at that. It's got you on film here, Bill.
I just feel like.
Maybe this thing's such a good place to sit.
I feel like we're all so good because that's the closest screen I look at.
You're all right. Jessica, Sean? We could. Thank you. We're gonna move on now to we're on item number 6 on our commission agenda, which is the discussion regarding West Warren and Warren West Water District. We have Sean Wilkinson here, Gary Myers, Tucker Waite. We have Randy, and we have Randy Giordano, but he's brought a host of characters with him. Mr. Giordano, would you please introduce those characters or those members of your board or the boards with you, please?
I will. All of them member of the board except our secretary, Melissa Murray, Ron LaRue, Bill Davis, Mike Marriott, Steve Davis, and we got one more that sits on the board, Tracy Smith. He's not available to come today. He's had some medical problems.
Sorry.
So that's the board out there.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I think you asked to meet with us, and so we have those online too. But we welcome you here, and Mr. Giordano, go ahead, lead out if you would, please.
Okay.
You want me to start off?
Yeah, Mike's gonna read
Turn
some.
the mic
Did
there.
you give these guys a copy? We're gonna give you a copy of what kind of agenda we put together.
Sharon?
Okay.
No.
Yes, so sorry about
She-
that.
Commissioner Bolos, Mr. Merritt is online.
There you go.
There's two more. for the
She's the only one I don't know.
Is everybody?
I think everybody got one except them people in the back there. They don't need
Did
one.
all the commissioners, everyone get one down there? Okay.
I think we're good.
Good. What's your name again, ma'am?
Melissa Murray.
Thank you,
I'm
Ms.
with-
Murray.
Okay, Mike.
You ready?
Mr. Music, you ready?
Yes, thank you, Mike. Sorry,
Hey,
we gotta be formal here with the public on us, so go ahead, you're good.
Okay. Well, as as part of the West Warren Water Improvement District, we thank you as commissioners for the opportunity to meet with you and kind of go over some of the situations that's gonna come about with our district and with the growth in western Weaver County. As you guys are probably aware, Weaver County is gonna grow like crazy. Ogden Valley is gonna be big growth. But I think the majority of the growth and the transformation is gonna be in the west part where we are.
I don't disagree with that.
That's what we're feeling, you know, there's gonna be a lot of, and as a water district, we wanna do what's right for the community, be able to serve everybody, give everybody water, but there's lots of problems that's gonna come because of these developments. And, one of the things we went through as a board was annexing. We, maybe want to annex more ground. We're only getting paid part of the ground that we have in the district. We're only getting part of the tax base from it. And where the tax is not a great big deal, you know, we get about 20 grand a year, I guess, off taxes or whatever. But we need to include everything where we're getting in the tax base. So that's one thing we'd like to work on. The secondary water issue is a problem. Every time we go to do a connection, people think that we're not willing to give them culinary water because they don't have secondary water or whatever. There's a lot of issues with secondary water. Now, I don't know what we need to do to solve them problems. If we didn't have to deal with secondary water, we'd be a lot more willing to give people connections, but I feel, and this is Marriott's opinion only, that the county has put that burden upon us that really shouldn't be ours. Secondary water. We can't give us culinary water, issue culinary water unless they have secondary water.
Okay,
Want me to keep going?
oh no, please, yeah, you're doing great.
We made a rule in our water district that anybody over a 2 home and above has to have some sort of secondary water. A pressurized system is what we've passed now. So we've tried. Anybody that just builds 1 home, we're gonna give them secondary water, you know? We're gonna give them water. If they build more than 2 homes on their family place or their ground, they have to have pressurized secondary water, 2 or more, 3 homes, they have to have that. That's the bylaws we passed in our district. And that's kind of in conjunction with what the counties ask us to do. We haven't had very good luck getting these secondary systems going in and doing right. Every subdivision we've done that has a secondary system has failed. That's up to the vaquero, and then we got tough. And it's made some developers upset that we're demanding such a nice pond, one little work and pressure and stuff. That's the way we look at it. Really, I don't feel that it's really our problem. We could pass out water. If they use it outside, we're just gonna charge more for it, so they have to pay. Which we don't want to. We don't want them to be using culinary water out in conjunction with Weaver Basin. They don't want us to either. They would like you guys would like us for secondary water. So that's kind of where that's at. As far as the growth out there, the water district worked together with Black Pine Project, commercial property that has been expressed interest in involving community infrastructure. Water district has enjoyed working with them. Black Pine Project seeks to develop and goals better community. The goal is seen as more as a mindset than dollar signs. Water district is desired involved with community, commercial collaboration in the betterment of the entire county. It's not just for their own projects. We dealt with, Black Pine with that. We made some improvements to improve our water line. Plus, we're gonna get a fire tank, you know, as water tank, 1 million-gallon water tank for the community,
1 million-gallon
a
water.
million gallon. They're gonna,
Culinary.
for culinary. They're gonna put up, and I talked to the people at the fire district and they were really pleased with it. They feel that was more than enough right now to deal with what we had. Up to now, we've been renting and we're continuing to rent storage in Weaver Basin's tank. So Little Mountain, so this is gonna be built at 5,900, which is more right in the middle of our community, which everybody felt it was better. You know, so that's how we work with that. As far as that development going, we're willing to work with any development out there, commercial or residential. I think we got kind of a bad rub on that last one. He said we weren't willing to work with people, but we are. We've tried on that particular subdivision. On what I heard, he's already got the water in. We've already okayed any, and then he quit. It's been sitting still for 16 months or
Which
better.
one you talking about, Randy?
That,
The Carroll.
no, not, well, that one too.
Mountain
John
View
Price.
Estates.
Mountain View
Oh,
Estates, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the water line was in, tested, passed, okay. Same with Vaquero. And then they both just quit. They wanted to increase the lot sizes. So they had to come back through the county, and I've never heard anything about it anymore. He even went as, well, Vaquero put in a terrible pond that don't work. But the other one, Mountain View Estates, put in a pretty nice pond down there. And I think it'll work if they just finish it. I don't know. They just stopped and let all the weeds grow. So I don't feel we got any problem with growth out there. We've been in contact with Weaver Basin. There's water, it's available, it's just more money. Everything's gone up, you know what I mean? And when we started this district out there 40 some years ago, we got a pretty good rate on water, but as we've had to buy water over the 40 years, it's more money. And we've had to raise our rates a little bit, you know? So, I don't know. I just think we're kind of getting a bad rub about not being willing to work with people, but we are more than willing to work with people. We have a real tough time on these secondary deals. We really do. I'd like to see one that works. So far, we've dealt with like 4 or 5 of them, and not a one of them's worked. So,
You're talking particularly about the private systems.
private systems, yes. Now,
So do you have any public systems out there, Taylor, West Weaver, Hooper, that you talk to that could provide a secondary access?
we've talked amongst ourselves as a board on maybe putting in a secondary system,
Okay, that's another alternative.
you know? But we really don't have the water to supply it. Water's hard to get out there. There's so many shares in that Warren irrigation, and they're pretty tied up. So we're in kind of cahoots with somebody to work on it, but we got nothing solid yet. We got nothing solid. We got a lot of pressure from people that want the water out to the lake. Runoff water, you know, that maybe a guy could take for secondary, but they're not willing to let you pump it clear back up here to use it. So water's a big problem out there, especially, you know, it is a problem. I don't know. We got ideas, but I don't know. And, you know, people come to us with, well, give up some of your water. Well, anybody that farms out there is not gonna give up their water unless they subdivide their place, then maybe they'll give up their water, you know what I mean?
Some of them.
Some of it. But that's usually the way it goes. The people that has developed up there, the developer comes in. I know on a couple of places out there, developer come in and sold half the water shares right off the bat. And then he subdivided the place and half the water shares were gone. You know, and you can sell them overnight. I mean, you know how it is. They just don't come up for sale out there very often for the Warren irrigation water. I really don't know, maybe more than 3 that's come up in the 40-some years I've been out there. Other than a developer come in and sold them before anybody knew.
So we've got, I'm trying to stay with you on this.
I-
And so what about, does that conclude your presentation?
Like,
Mr.
No.
Marriott, are you? Mike?
they come and propose this flagship.
Oh, this is the flagship project.
Yeah, you guys are involved in that a little bit. You don't know nothing about
Oh, I'm looking around the room
Yes.
here.
We are involved in
Yeah.
that.
Charlie.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ninja back there.
I want to make sure everyone has a seat at the table.
Thank
Wow.
you.
Do you want me to give you an update?
Please.
So, the flagship as well as one of their partners has submitted for a rezone. They submitted that we got that complete application a couple of weeks back. We anticipate it'll be on for a public hearing with the planning commission maybe in March at the soonest. A lot of development rights being asked for. They're asking for somewhere around 14,000 at full build out, but their build out is at least 50 years. And so they're talking about quite a bit of time for a build out, but they're asking they want to try and get entitled quite a bit of.
Tell me where it is.
This is west of the Legal River, south of the tracks, east of 75 west.
Yeah.
That's 7,500, yeah.
I'll show you here.
I have a map of it.
East of 75.
Oh, you do too. I have the same one.
Up to
Yeah.
57.
To the river.
Okay.
Yeah,
Between 75 and west of.
Gage, here's the tracks that go down there.
Yeah,
And this is 7,500. And
Yeah.
this is the development area.
okay.
They want flagships looking at.
How many acres?
They're probably a little over 1,000,
Yeah, like 1,400, I want to say.
1,500.
Okay.
So, and I know, instead of, this is the service area we got with the county.
Yeah,
I come in and got this map from, Mr. Johnson.
yes.
Yeah, and this is the area that we're, getting taxes on, is this boundaries here. And we're servicing people in here and people here and people down here that we want to annex in, you know. But
You want to annex them in or you?
Our taxing district when we started was clear back in 1982 or whatever. it was when we started.
yeah,
So our taxing district has never annexed stuff in since, and so we've got a lot of service area. We're serving people that never got annexed into our property. tax district.
and we want to annex in, we would like to. I don't know if we really want to annex all this.
So, I work for LMSA as their project manager and board manager. We're in the process of annexing these guys in for sewer,
Yeah,
just so you know.
That's what
We're
I've
in the
heard.
process of annexing in for sewer.
and that's something we would like to be involved with is. We figure if the sewer comes, that's gonna help this all take off. You know,
And we're working with, them on their public infrastructure district to build a mechanical facility.
I mean, we'd like to annex at least 8,300 straight across. Over to 700. Up to here and then over here, at least that much,
So,
in this little blank spot right here.
Sean,
Yes.
what precludes them from annexing what they want to do or from annexing in their existing customers that are south of the railroad and west of the Weaver River?
Nothing unless there's another district already there. That would be the only issue that I would see.
Is there?
The landowners.
Well, yeah, the
The
landowners.
landowners have to opt in.
Yeah,
They have to request, the landowners have to request the annexation. As it relates to LMSA, yes, LMSA does exist, but currently LMSA is not utilizing their ability to retail water. Although that has been talked about.
yeah,
So just to, I think I know the answer to this question, but I'm gonna ask in front of these gentlemen here. Really, the county, this is their own taxing district here, right?
Correct.
Do we have influence over their district? It sounds to me like we have a little bit over it because we did these subdivision, of course, there's that one out at Vaquero, we've talked about that. We've had them in here, but the secondary water systems.
Yes.
Gage, this is in your portfolio, so feel free to jump in anytime
Okay.
here.
I'm listening.
How do we,
We do have a requirement in our code, section 10642, water supply, we do require a culinary and secondary water connection. And I think that's the complaint.
That's the complaint that I heard well, I think they're all united, but you, Mike and Randy have said on this. That the county has put a burden on us by making sure they have the secondary water. Now, this is a burden that's kind of been shifted from Weaver Basin. I mean, hasn't it, or Gage?
Well, it's as Sean's pointed out, Mr. Chair, it's a county ordinance. We've again relied upon the water districts in the past to have some type of relationship with the secondary to make sure that that secondary water is provided, because we've had some issues in the past with people getting their culinary hooked up and then not having secondary. And again, Weaver Basin frowns on using culinary for secondary. The state is frowning on that even more. So I don't know how, so when you say it's that we're passing on to you, I guess, what's your opinion as far as taking that burden off of you? I mean, that's part of our ordinance. You have to give the connection to those people. We don't.
Right.
So tell me a better way to do it, I guess is what
Well,
would be my question. How else do we do it?
Well, part of the problem is it's a requirement.
Okay,
Every developer that comes to us, unless they have water stock in the irrigation company,
right,
there's no alternatives. All of the Weber Basin's water out there is culinary water.
correct.
And just as you said, they frown on us using it.
For
And
secondary,
And number two is it's quite expensive.
yeah, I don't disagree with what you're saying.
We don't know where to turn.
well,
And the future, you guys, 1,400 homes. There's no infrastructure out there.
14,000.
14,000,
Just a factor of 10, it's okay.
plus all the commercial that's there.
Right,
Where is, as a whole unit, all of us, where are we gonna acquire that?
But with all due respect, Bill, I don't know the county doesn't. We don't worry about where you're gonna require that. We don't, do we? That's not what we do.
as far as where the water comes from,
Uh-huh.
no, we just want secondary water. We don't care, you can pump it out of the lake if you want, or pump it out of the river, but.
no, but they're telling us they can pump it out.
I'm just saying,
No.
yeah,
We're not the water authorities. I guess what we're saying is we don't have any jurisdiction over the water. We don't have it
But you do.
by requiring secondaries out there. So you're saying by virtue, because this boils down to a couple of things. One is I was over the annexing. You're gonna have to get those people that you said, Mr. Davis, that are in some of those other areas to opt into your annex to do that. So that problem's taken care of. By what you're saying is by us requiring secondary water, it puts undue pressure on you. So what you're saying is,
Jim,
hold on, I gotta finish my thought so I can understand what I'm saying. So what you're saying is that if we didn't have the secondary water and people chose to water 1, 2, or 3 acres with culinary water, their price would be super expensive, but we shouldn't require it? Did I say that right?
Yeah, well, that's an option they have. Cause they sell the culinary water.
It's an option we have until, like, year before last, we were basing cut us by 120. You know what I mean?
It's not a good option. I'm just
No,
saying
it's not.
No.
Yeah, it's, in fact.
And it's not a
you-
guarantee.
You've maintained that that Weber Basin frowns upon that.
They do.
But these people can't build without water, and you guys control the water. Go ahead,
I just,
and then I'm gonna go to you, Mike.
the thing
Thanks.
that's kind of concerning though too, it's like, in our last meeting, we had another subdivider come out there with a proposal for 79 homes, something like that.
75 to
So
86.
they keep getting preliminary approval for these things. What are we supposed to do? We don't have the water to provide it. If we were to do Weber Basin water in our lines
and allow people to use it for secondary water, our only option is to pay for that. And just to give you a little idea, I mean, we're in a small district. When you guys widened that road down 12th Street, and we had to take out $1.8 million loan for our little water district to move our lines, we took advantage of upsizing the lines while we were doing that.
Yeah.
But when we did that, we're paying off that thing over 30 years, and that's a heck of a burden for our small district. And that's all we're trying to say. I mean, we've talked about trying to provide the secondary water through our water lines. But we gotta pay for that water, and you know, then they're gonna make everybody meter the secondary water. So there's a lot of issues as to how we would provide that.
I think I might have a solution here coming up here.
Let me
Yeah,
just,
go ahead.
let me just state something first, if I would, good, Mr. Chair.
Yeah,
So you say the preliminary approval came back without any,
Well, I'm not sure if they approve. They brought their plan is what I'm saying.
okay,
But all the way along, we have different subdividers that'll come in and they want you know, will serve letter type of thing that will provide water to them. And I'm just saying, if we're looking at that, is that culinary water? We look at down the road to try to do secondary water with it. You guys are having all these guys come to us on the board wanting a will serve letter for
okay,
culinary.
hold on a second. So Charlie, correct me if I'm wrong. So we need a will serve letter for culinary, but don't we also require a will serve letter for secondary?
Correct.
So Steve, I understand what you're saying, but just because they came to you for a will serve letter, they may or may not have their will serve letter for secondary,
Right.
in which case we wouldn't approve it.
Correct.
Is that right? So, yeah.
The only
So
thing,
it's, again, what I'm saying, I don't think it's your problem unless you want to get in the secondary water business. If that developer can't get a will serve letter for secondary, then they should solve the problem, not you.
the only thing
that's where I was. That's just what I wrote down. Will
this
serve.
particular person is this square right here. They do have secondary water with that ground. The Knight place. Gibsons are applying to, right? But they do have secondary water with that place. So they're one that's gonna have to put in one of these ponds,
Reservoir.
reservoir and
pressure
ponds, pressure system.
Randy, do they have secondary water or irrigation water?
They got irrigation water. That's the only secondary water that's available out in Westmoreland,
Okay.
is
Just-
that
Just
irrigation.
to stratify the difference, so
Yeah.
irrigation water being gravity fed and.
Now, Mr. Marriott's got some secondary water over there on 200 West and stuff over in Warren.
Right.
And that's great. I mean, it's been wonderful, cause we don't have to worry about it. All we do is get a letter from them stating they bought a connection and go ahead and build. We're happy.
Let me move to Mike. Go ahead, Mike.
Makes it easy. Boy, you've kind of just talked about everything I was gonna talk about. See, somebody wants to start a subdivision, they come to us, they want us to approve them a letter for X amount of houses in a subdivision. And I guess we can say, yeah, we'll give you a will serve for them. You're gonna have to find a secondary water system and get it approved through the county. Is that correct?
That's the process.
I
That's
think-
so it takes it away. So you guys,
I think that's the way we're doing it, ain't it, Melissa?
So currently, the board does not have me issue an actual will serve letter unless they've given me proof of secondary water.
Okay.
So currently, we'll just say water's available for the project, they'll get a water availability letter. Before they can move forward getting a will serve letter, they also have to pay their water rights impact fee, which we pay directly to Weber Basin, and they have to pay that per connection, so that in order to get the will serve letter, so we are trying to kind of keep things in order where we do availability, great. And we kind of move forward. I think just in the past, it has been hard, you know, people are complaining so much about saying that the board is really unwilling to work with them. Because we say, well, we have this county ordinance about secondary water, and now we have our own, you know, within our own bylaws saying you need to have this type of system and things like that. And so developers or other people walk away from that saying, well, they're not willing to work with me when we're saying, these are just our rules, and clearly these are our rules. And so I think that's the biggest issue, is that it's hard to be in the middle of it when we're like, well, we are. We are trying to work with you, but,
What
you
the-
you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, so what the county does, as I understand this, the next thing the county, we ask those applicants to get a will serve letter from you all first, so that we don't go ahead and issue them permits, and then all of a sudden you're stuck after the deal. So really, you're out there, you have the power to be able to say, hey, look, until you do this, Mr. Applicant, until Mr. Developer, you do this, or you bring us this, this is how that goes. That's how I see it.
Well, yeah, just as, Ms. Murray said over here, that's a great process to have. You're not giving them will serve letter till they prove to you they've got secondary.
Yeah.
So you're giving them the ability to go out and get the will serve from Taylor, West, Weaver, Hooper, or a private system. Now, getting back to your private system, then I think we're gonna depend on our Weaver County engineer or other people. We're not gonna get another McCarroll Village situation where,
No, we're not.
so, you know, until they prove up that pond system with pumps, I would, as a commissioner, never approve that until we have a green light, and he's gonna put his job on the line to say that is an operating system.
Well, that's part of the problem we're in here. We feel that we're getting a bad rap because everybody's saying we're so hard to work with.
Look,
I mean, we heard that in your last work session.
The easy answer, just blame us.
Well, that's why we're here.
here. Yeah, so really though, it comes back up. You're not a bad rap. What you're doing is, what you're trying to do is enforce your policy.
Yeah,
For culinary and secondary.
we are.
We respect that and we'll do
Okay.
our best. I think as far as process by which we're conducting business is smart, because it gives you folks first the opportunity to will serve or not, to will serve culinary and to will serve secondary. They say, well, why can't you serve us secondary? Mr. Developer, bring us secondary, then we'll serve it to you.
Yeah,
That's how that goes. That's not it might be foreign out there, but it's not foreign to the county. They have,
That's our requirement.
Yeah.
that's what we do. So in other parts of this county, that's what happens. That so they're gonna have to bring it to you somehow, some way, with the water, with all the other stuff with it. You're the company that provides it. So that's how it goes.
That, just to give you guys an example, Taylor West Weaver, culinary water, they've got minimum standards that secondary systems have to meet in order to get their service. And I don't know if you guys have adopted that yet. You may want to get with them just to find out what their minimum standards are in terms of delivery system, size, pressure, all that kind of stuff. Which I think if you were to adopt that by resolution, you'd be able to fall back on that and say, hey, if your delivery system does not meet this standard, you're not getting access to our water.
well, we're kind of getting that in our bylaws. I mean, I've been talking with Taylor West Weaver, with Andrew sits on the board, and Jolly, and
Brent's right there, but I'm not gonna call on him right now.
yeah. But anyway,
Brent's incredible. They've put
Brent's on the
together,
board too.
yeah, and they've put together they've put together some things that stand the
But-
test of time and the pressure.
The
So-
thing there, and I've talked with them about their money, they're in debt probably close to 5 million. They're thinking about going in another 6 or 7 million to get the infrastructure available, but they got 6,000 connections. We got 420.
Well, and so then the way you pick up those connections is by connection fees from the
Well,
developer.
we're charging good connection fees right now, but most of Taylor and West Weaver's boundaries and ground has got some sort of irrigation water or secondary water available, because Hooper put in a system in half of it. This ground out here that we're trying to develop, very little of it's got irrigation water. This little part right over here is the only one that's got secondary water, right there. All this out here has no water whatsoever.
Sounds to
No.
me like the developer's gotta bring it to it then.
Oh, boy, they got a problem.
So, am I wrong or is that right?
That's how I see it.
Well,
That's how I
yeah,
see
but
it, Sean,
I guess what the whole thing of this meeting is, and maybe we just got the wrong information and we just don't want to be blamed for being hard to work with.
I don't know. Did somebody blame you?
There-
Yes.
those are the developers, they came in.
There was
Okay.
comments about that. They want to
Okay.
form another district because we're hard to work with. And somebody at this county was all for the idea.
Okay. Okay,
Is that you?
not me.
Okay.
It was the commissioner.
Okay, all right.
I mean, and it kind of ruffled all of her skin, and it wasn't you.
No, I know. Do you want me to bring up what it was? And
Yeah.
we can talk through that? So.
Okay, we might want to put us on a timeline because we're already 5 minutes over.
Well, first, I was going to ask you, Randy, how many connections do you have available right now?
Oh, available.
Oh, I think we got another 400 or 500. I mean, we can get more water.
Yeah, and I think what you're referring to is the discussion about about LMSA potentially starting to provide culinary or secondary water. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm,
Okay, so as far as I know, there have just been basic discussions about that,
there has
but
been.
not a plan put in place or anything like that.
No,
They'd have to de-annex from your service area. They'd have to go through a whole bunch of different steps to do it. So long as it's in your service area, all of these developers have to come to you guys to get water.
Well, that's what we was nervous about,
Yeah.
because
So-
nobody's
I wanna put-
nobody's included us
I wanna
in
put that to
nothing.
bed. Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're talking about making another district. We haven't got invited to anything.
We've had one meeting about it. It was very loosely brought up in a meeting.
There's a long ways to go before that ever happens.
Well, I know, and I probably won't be here when it happens, so, if it
Well,
happens.
it'll be within the next 30, 40 years. Where are you going?
God,
And
who
if that
knows?
was to deal more with the industrial pieces out in the west part of it, then it was to deal more with that than the.
Then the
than-
flagship.
Well, not
Yes,
according to the
flagships are-
guy
yeah,
that said it.
flagships Been talking
So
about it.
Randy, to your credit, to the credit of your.
I'm
group
happy
here,
to.
We
enlighten
haven't had
everybody on
any
that.
concerns from the planning and development side of things. When
Okay.
developers come in, they tell us that you guys are being hard on them. We say, good. You probably need to have something to be hard on you, because there's not a whole lot of water resources out there right now. You guys gotta figure out how to build that in a way that makes.
Well, that's good to hear.
You need to hear this right from me right now. I'd rather have all these problems up front than on the backside. We just went through that. Let them all the problems flush out in the front, because I hate them on the backside.
Well, that's why we come in here.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you did.
Vaquero was. Problems were solved, and then after it was done, it was big problems.
Yeah, big mess. Yep.
That won't happen again.
No.
And it's getting fixed.
We've been
One other
cool.
con-
All right.
One
Okay,
other
one
concern.
briefly, and I'll hear it, then we're
Okay.
gonna adjourn.
I come to the meeting about the port.
Yeah.
And you guys
Inland port,
discussed it.
Yes.
It's been, you guys said it's been in the works for 5, 7 years. You said it was from 17 when you was down at the state.
Yeah, 2017.
Well, how come nobody in the community, any of the, like the park, the cemetery, the water district or that, has never had a meeting or been approached for anything like that?
That's not true. I don't
No, I
think,
think we put that word out, didn't we?
We had a couple public meetings.
Yeah.
no, but even
Public
before.
meetings, but I mean, when was we invited to a meeting to sit down and discuss things with you?
Yeah.
You said you've been working with all these people at that meeting, you know, you listed, I don't know how many.
Our stakeholders.
And, we have not been approached to anything to involve anything that way, and we're majorly concerned with the infrastructure as this moves forward, because we got approached on the 900 South deal. I don't know how many years ago that road was gonna be put in. The county had all the money to do it. We're still waiting for the road to be built.
900 South?
Yeah.
The rest of the road's way down.
West, okay, just, well, we've got that on the,
Well, then, you wasn't involved in that, but when they
That's
first come
okay,
out
it's a
to
fair
it.
question.
that's a fair.
They had all
Let me
the-
just say this, you know, again, you know that land out there has been zoned for manufacturing for
Right, 50 years.
as long as I've been around.
Yeah.
Maybe a little longer. So I think you have a lot better opportunity now with the port, with the language that we put in that resolution with the port. There'll actually be a committee established as they bring potentially
People in.
users to us to have that's when the community involvement will take place.
Okay.
And before.
We're not against the
So
port.
the zone right
I
now,
agree with
they could come in and propose a 3-story nuclear power plant right now. Under the old zone, we wouldn't have a choice to say no. You now have the opportunity as they come in to get together and have that discussion right here.
This gives you a little more strength, a little more muscle.
So
We
So
just
the reason
feel
we
that
did that-
we need to be included.
Well, tell the people out there, this gives, if they're gonna complain, don't complain about involvement, because this now gives them the opportunity to be
To be
involved,
involved. This is just, yeah, that's it.
100%.
Gentlemen,
Well,
thanks
that's
for
good.
coming in and visiting with us. We
Yeah, thank
appreciate
you.
you. We need to adjourn this, and move on to the next. That, Sean, that Mike Marriott said, well, I was gonna say juvenile delinquent, but he's not a juvenile anymore.
You have a recommendation for him?
Yeah, he's a great guy. Mr. Davis, nice to meet you.
You never know.
Garrett, how are you?
Good to see you, Randy.
We going on that road yet?
Real close. It's not as easy as just, okay, get off.
All right.
Make you work.
It's gonna change all things.
Now,
it says.
I suggesting that's a good idea, because that's to create their own system. I really didn't mean that against you guys at all. I was just, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. I knew what you were talking about, and I knew who you were talking about. I just mentioned it. I can specifically, if he's looking at going a certain direction, then maybe it's a good idea for him to be pursuing.
I know we have.
I knew what he was saying, that you guys started working.
That's what I want.
Speaking of, you guys playing lip service. but-
Take care.
I sound like I was doing things.
Are you gonna
Apologize.
secondary?
All right, thank you. What you guys doing out there? I want you guys to be-
We're not doing it.
The burden's on them, not on getting.
Well, thanks, Jim.
Mike, pleasure to put a face with a name. Thank you. I'm Gary Myers.
Yeah, no.
Gary? Yeah. Good to meet you, Mike. I think I've met you before. Did you? If you did, I'm sorry. I'm real.
Take care.
Hey, take care. Anyway. Good to meet you. All right.
On, go ahead.
Motion to go into closed session.
I've got a motion to move our next item into closed session to
Second.
discuss. Thank you, to discuss imminent litigation. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. For those of you online, we'll be back when we're done with closed session. Hold on there, Jared, holy mackerel, you've had a lot of grain this weekend. You're hyped up on grain.
Oh, yeah, well,
You're-
after that last little
Yeah.
conversation we had, yeah.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to come out of closed session.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Second, so we're now out of closed session. We're back in our work session again. This is a continuation of the commission meeting held on January 22nd. We're on item number 8, which is a discussion regarding the proposal contracts for independent hearing officers to assist in property valuation appeals. We've got Andy and Lynn Taylor here, and also Mr. Erickson, Cortland Erickson from the attorneys. Mr. Taylor, if you'll lead, please.
Yep, this is mostly an informational, just to give you a heads up before this comes up on a Tuesday commission meeting. So we, as part of the Board of Equalization, we receive appeals for property values, and Andy McCrae handles receiving those, manages the process and the paperwork, hands the appeals over to the assessor's office, who does a review, and then if they have any changes they recommend, that comes back to us and we notify the property owner. If the property owner doesn't like that answer, then we set up a hearing with an independent hearing officer who hears it all, then they make a recommendation, and then that comes to the board, commissioners of the Board of Equalization for a final approval.
Yeah.
So we've had 2 hearing officers in the past for several years. One of them may be close to retiring, and sometimes 2 just isn't enough to really cover the load, especially in a timely fashion.
Okay.
And talking with the attorney's office, they suggested that in the past, it wasn't like a full contract. They recommended we kind of do something more like a formal contract with the hearing officers. So that started a whole process. We had Portland go through and come up with a really solid contract, and then we put it out for a whole bunch of folks at pretty much a flat rate. And the plan is anybody who's qualified, and by qualified, they are a licensed appraiser in the state of Utah, not fitting any disqualifying criteria, like they can't currently be working for assessor's office. And then they've got to go through the state certified training to be a hearing officer. So if they meet all that criteria, the approach we're taking is we're taking all of those folks and just putting them on a list, basically a roster of available folks. And there's some that we're gonna probably use more often, but if we need to fill in any gaps.
It's kind of a rotation type thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it gives us flexibility. The contract specifies that everybody on our list, there's no guarantee that they're gonna get any work. The amount that we're paying, we used to pay on a per
Review process.
yeah, on a per, and then we went to like for half a day block, but now we're going back to
Per.
a flat per. We initially put out one price, which is kind of comparable to what we had. It didn't get a lot of response. Talked to John Uliberry. He suggested we up that a little bit to better match what assessors typically make per hour. We put that out there and got a lot of response.
Right.
So it's still within budget. The way the contracts are listed, you'll see that it's 12,000 per person, but that is the total, that's like 4,000 a year, not per person. It's spread across all of them, but so if one person ends up getting more than the others, we didn't know how it was gonna be
You're
distributed.
just gonna the annual cost is 12 grand.
Essentially about $4,000 per year, but it's a 3-year contract.
Okay.
$4,000 a year. That
Yes,
sounds about right.
yeah.
Commissioner Floor, any
Yeah,
questions?
no, I like it.
Great.
Okay. so
You've got a
You
consensus.
said you got a lot of applications?
We have 5
Oh, good.
right now.
Okay, I like it.
That'll, and then we've got about 4 more that are going to go through the training in July, and then we'll probably have another round that.
I got no more questions.
Okay, the only other question I've got for you is, do you want to do these as a consent item, just?
Please.
Okay, we'll do them as consent.
I would say so.
Yeah, I'll
Alright.
if you'll just visit with Commissioner Bolos, who's doing some family.
Mhm.
She's got a daughter leaving on a mission tomorrow.
Awesome.
So this is the last hurrah.
Yep, that's family first.
Yep.
Totally get it. Okay, yeah, so I will update her. This will probably be on, not tomorrow's, but the next Tuesday. I'll
Perfect.
just give her-
Yeah, because we don't have enough time. We always make sure we list things the way they should be, just in case we.
That's why Portland's looking over. our-
Yeah, all the time. Are you kidding me?
Anything you wanted to add?
No.
Anything you wanted to add? Okay, that's
Thank you.
really it.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Thanks.
So have you already posted?
Oh, no, we're looking at, we've been thinking about this for a while. When I first came in 10 years ago, we had 3 full-time positions. But we've been transitioning from full-time to part-time, and I think we're gonna take this last one and make it 2 part-time positions.
I
as
just
well.
wanna make sure that you receive what you need up at the front, and, cause your load seems to be so heavy,
It
and this doesn't help.
is.
This is hard. So, okay, whatever help we
Yeah,
can give you,
thank
let
you.
us know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lynn.
Okay, we're gonna move on, Mr. How about that, huh?
Settle down.
Uh-huh.
Okay, let's move.
We'd like to move on to item number 9 on our agenda, which is a discussion regarding the ARPA funding agreement update.
Who's here to
They're on
talk?
their way.
And they're on their way, Mr. Frohr, I'll entertain a motion to saunter for 4 minutes.
Motion to saunter till 2:44.
Second, all in favor?
Aye,
Aye, thanks.
knowing that at
Son.
2:50 I have to leave. so-
Oh, Judas.
Yeah, so
Entertain a motion to cease dishonor.
So move, Mr.
A
Chair.
second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, we're on item number 9, which is a discussion regarding ARPA funding agreement updates. We'll turn the time over to Ms. Stewart and Mr. Park for that update.
So I'll just jump in really quickly. We're hoping to have Brendan here, but we have a couple of issues or solutions we'd like to present before the problem really become a problem. So we have our ARPA funding. It has to be committed by the end of 2024. And we have all of it essentially committed now, although we have a couple of projects that may or may not get done in time. And so here's Mr. Quinney.
Hello.
We're worried that if the projects don't get done in time, we've already passed the date to obligate the funds. And so then we would just end up writing a check back to the federal government for that amount of money.
No.
So our intention is, with your permission, and which is we want to run by you, is just go through a couple of these different second place projects that we thought were good. We just didn't have enough money to fund everything, and kind of sign some like secondary place agreements. If for whatever reason, project A does not go through or cannot complete in time, then we would take the money and fund project B, which, and most of these projects are already done, have already incurred what would have been eligible expenditures. And we could have those reimbursements requests already ready to go. If project A falls through, we essentially come back and say, okay, we would have liked to do A, but A didn't work out. So we're gonna fund this project B that already was eligible.
Okay. Any questions?
No, I just think we need a full list of second place projects.
Yep.
Before we make any commitments.
Yep.
And I'll also plan on taking as much as I can into revenue recovery as just a placeholder, and then we can always push that money wherever we want. But
Sure.
worst case scenario, it's revenue replacement, and we have it as well.
Do you know how much room we have for revenue replacement?
I don't know the
Dollar-wise.
calculation yet for 2023. So 2023 is the last year we could do the calculation, so we have to do it every year. I don't have the year-end numbers
Okay,
yet.
whatever it is, it is.
Yeah, I suspect it's not going to be very much.
So the revenue replacement first, second place finisher second,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yep.
But I would also say, rather than just look at those that have completed their projects, we might have some out there that we funded that actually could use another, whatever, X number of dollars to maybe get them across the finish line,
Mhm.
or just help them speed things up a little bit.
Yeah. So we'll come back with a list with some staff recommendations as to the priority and let you guys decide.
Tell us who needs it.
I'm happy with that. You happy with that?
I'm happy with that.
Okay, Brandon, do you have anything you wanted to add to that?
No, as soon as we get your preference on who these secondary recipients would be, I can draft up contracts and we'll make it very clear when we communicate with them that these are conditional funds, so you don't have the reward, but you will if certain
So we'll actually
things
do it,
happen.
we'll actually sign a conditional contract.
Yep,
Who gets put on that secondary list?
That's who you're gonna decide.
that's what you decide, yeah.
So we'll look at that list, tell you who to sign contracts with.
And
We'll bring you back.
Based
recommendations,
upon,
but you-
based upon the number of dollars.
Mhm.
I guess the only thing, Mr. Chair, if I might, is that
Please.
whatever amount that we think may be coming back, that may be coming back to us, I wanna try to maximize that as far as we can, rather than say, okay, here's one entity that can take it all. I'd rather try to spread that out as much as possible.
You wanna make sure you cover the butter
Yeah.
across all, the
Yeah.
whole piece of toast.
Exactly.
Got it.
Yeah,
Maybe put a little jam on the side, you know?
yeah.
Marmalade, okay?
Nah, I like raspberry.
Okay.
And we'll probably try to identify like between $8 and $10 million worth of projects that could be on that tier list, second list. I don't anticipate that we'll have that, but if
Yeah.
one of these two big projects in the Upper Valley don't complete,
So when do we think, do we have a deadline, or are we at the mercy of the court on the lawsuit?
Well, we're not at the mercy of the court on our end, but we also have this kind of these fluid circumstances. So at some point, we have to decide that our ARPA funding is so at risk that the project itself isn't going to succeed, and then we can,
Pull it back.
Okay.
pull our agreement with whoever is the subject of that lawsuit, and then engage the new ones that we would have already in place. So you'll see a bunch of ARPA agreements for these secondary recipients that will come through the commission agenda. They will all be just those conditional rewards, but they're there, ready to go in case we have to pull the plug last minute. So,
And do we have to give any notice to our primary ARPA funders now that we're gonna do that, or do we have the ability just to go? I mean,
I don't think we have to.
inform them, but I think it would be a good practice to make sure that they're.
I would
aware
like
that-
to.
That we are watching the scenario, the circumstance, and at some
I think
point,
that's good
No.
form.
yeah, they should be aware that ARPA funding, it's
It
always
also-
subject to eligibility.
Well, I would like to put them on notice now.
It's,
Yeah, if this, I'd like to put them on notice that we're actually looking at secondary. I don't wanna get down to it in June or July or wherever it may be, say, well, you just lost your money. I would like them to be very much aware
Mhm.
that that's, you know.
hey, we're checking up on you again,
Yeah.
just.
It's not our intent, but we.
Right. For all intents and purposes, they've got the award and we'll
Right.
continue and help them have the
This-
full amount,
I
but if
think-
anything happens, we can pull that contract.
This is just one more touch that says, hey, look, we've told you, we told you again, here's this letter here that we told you again.
Yeah,
How many times we need to tell you,
That's-
I like
and up
that.
there with some of those people, it's a lot, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know about that, yeah.
So we'll bring back to you a prioritized spreadsheet with a status update on all the projects that we have currently. We're actually going through that right now with Linnell. And we'll bring that back to you in a couple of weeks.
Okay,
Try to get those contracts going.
sounds like a chicken dinner.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
All right, I've got 5 minutes to get to Weaver
Okay,
State.
better hurry. Of course, you
Take
know what?
OGX, that'll get you there.
Well, this is Weaver State right down the block, so I can
Oh,
walk.
good.
All right.
OGX won't help you there.
Yeah. Well, no, he'd have to make that, no, he could probably, no. Yeah, he could make that, no, the stop would be, doesn't matter.
You gotta do a pretty big turnaround. Take the whole ride down and then come back and then get off OGX. Is that what we're talking about still?
I was just trying to follow you.
Oh.
Okay, so now there's one, so. That being the case, Commissioner Froer is gone. Commissioner Bolos is gone. I don't even have a way to adjourn a meeting,
I think it will just say it's done.
but we've got a 3 o'clock appointment.
Where's the
Sheriff,
Is he coming?
I just heard the ding, the bells
No.
ring.
I mean, you can listen to it. I think it's just fine. It just won't be noted in the minutes if that's part of the meeting.
Okay. Come on in, Sheriff.
All right, thank you.
We'll be back.
Not anymore.
Does Quinny's suit look like he's gonna go into a hearing and crush it?
No, it actually, I was thinking when he walked in, I thought, man, that's a lovely summer suit. Way to be optimistic, kid.
Very dapper.
Is it summer? I thought maybe it
Yes.
was frosty, like winter time.
That suit says, listen to what I have to say.
Does it paint me as the good guy?
Oh, I'll tell you, Picasso.
Great.
We might just call you Pablo.
Quinny the Cook.
Yeah. All right, I'll see you later. Look, Sheriff. Thank you.
Warmed him up for you.
Sheriff, do you have any others with you today?
No, it's just solo.
Well, great. You and I'll just have a discussion.
It's just us.
He lost his quorum. But you can still talk about your thing, so I can head out if you,
I'm here for you, man.
I'll stay too, if you need anything.
Pant check. Sorry. Sharon, I think her kid goes on the mission tomorrow. This is the last hurrah. She just got off moments ago. And Gage had another meeting with Weaver State that he just said, at 3 o'clock, I've gotta go. So then there was one.
Remember that movie back in the, I think it was the 80s, it was called Firestarter?
Yeah, with
That-
Drew Barrymore.
That little girl,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see that.
I feel like I'm the fire extinguisher.
What do you got?
Oh, geez. Trent Skaggs.
Let's shut the door. Hold on.
Is this?
So we've got no more meeting then, right?
Yeah, we can close it.
Okay, we're gonna close this meeting because we no longer have a quorum.
Who is this,
Beer bread.